Now let's look at example 6. What is the domain of sine inverse of 2x plus tangent inverse of x? To do this question, let's recall something we learned from last week. Recall that if I have sum of two functions, let's say f of x plus or minus g of x, then let's call the domain of f as df, domain of g is dg, then my new domain, my new domain, the domain of the sum, that is f plus g, would be the intersection of those two domains. You might ask me, what does intersection means? That means if you have any element, it has to be in both domains. Okay, so intersection means and. So you need to be, it means your x need to be an element of f and it has to be an element of g. So if you draw a graph, it will be where they both have. So for example, let's say this is my df, just an example. So let's say this is my df and I have a dg that goes like this. Let's say this is my dg, then the intersection is where they overlap. So that will be the middle part where the overlap is. So this part would be df intersect with dg. With this in mind, let's look at our question again. Now I have sum of two functions and I'm looking for the domain. That means, well, I need to find the domain of this and I need to find the domain of this, and then I take the intersection. So let's find it first. So let's say domain of sine inverse of 2x. Okay, let's figure this one out first. I know that from this table, which I told you need to know this. I know that if I have sine inverse, not 2x, okay, sine inverse of x, my domain is negative 1 to 1. So let's start with this. So the domain of sine inverse of x is negative 1 less than or equal to x, which is less than or equal to 1. And now I have, instead of x, I have 2x. And from function transformation, let me write it down. We know that this is horizontal compressing. Transformation. This 2, it means that we horizontally compress by factor of 2. My new domain will be x has to be, because you compress by a factor of 2, that's gonna be negative 1 over 2 because you divide by 2, and less than or equal to 1 over 2. That's the domain of sine inverse 2x. And now I have the domain of, what's the other one? Of tangent inverse x. This, from the table, we know that it's negative infinity to infinity. So now my total domain will be the intersection. So this one, let's write it in interval. That's gonna be negative 1 over 2, comma 1 over 2. So the intersection, that's negative 1 over 2, 1 over 2, intersect with negative infinity to infinity. Okay, and this is basically negative 1 over 2 to 1 over 2. Okay, because this is everywhere, but this is only so if you have a real number line, this is the first one, and everything else is the second one, right? So their intersection is just this part, which is -1/2 to 1/2. So this will be the final answer.